Welcome to Networking with Nathaniel, a real estate and entrepreneurial podcast where I get to stand up, I sit down and talk to amazing individuals who are doing amazing things. I've talked to a lot of really cool people on this podcast so far, but I'm really excited, and I think that you guys are really excited to talk to and listen to my guest today. He really kind of needs no introduction. His introduction is all over the internet, but I'm going to try to do some justice in this introduction as well. Pace Morby, real estate investor, community builder, creative finance guru. More importantly, at least to me, dedicated husband, dedicated father. I am going to ask him some really deep diving questions. What's his favorite color? What's his favorite movie? No, I'm just kidding. We're going to, without further ado, bring him up to the stage. He's sitting there antsy. I can see him in his chair waiting. Nathaniel, call me up, brother. Call me up. Pace.
What up, dude?
I appreciate you being here, dude. I'm doing very well, man. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous, not gonna lie, talking to you. This is kind of the
Nervous, dude. You've done 50 freaking episodes. You should have nothing to be
70,
that's
dude.
insane. If you guys really think about how cool it is that Nathaniel's got to 50 episodes.
No, it's a 70.
Bro, you're 70. That's insane. Okay, think about this. Yeah. You are 3 times more than the top 1%. Like when you want to start a podcast, you want to be in the top 1% of podcasts in the whole entire history of podcasts. All you have to do is get to 21 episodes. And here you are, episode 70, bro. That's insanity. Less than 1% of 1% of podcasts ever make it to this far. Like, kudos to you. Good job.
Kudos to you. You're the one that inspired me, pushed me to do this over a year ago now with Project Forward. I think it was like June 2023. And, since joining SubTo, you've told us to do a lot of things. And I haven't always said, just jump when Pace says jump, but this was one of them. Pace said do it, so I did it, and here we are 70 episodes later. And like I said, I've talked to a lot of cool people inside and outside of SubTo, the community that you built, right? And I just wanted to say, from me and from a lot of the people that are here, holy moly, the chat's already, I need to pay attention to the chat a little bit. Thank you for putting the community together, starting this 4 years ago at this point now, and just constantly giving and giving and giving, both inside and outside of the community. You're a testament to what a real go-giver is, and I got some questions on that, but I typically start the conversation here with, what are you up to? What's keeping you busy? I don't think that that's any secret to anybody here, though. And so I kind of wanted to change it up a little bit, especially as it's the end of 2024 now. This is going to be the last episode of Networking with Nathaniel, because the next 2 Wednesdays are going to be on Christmas and New Year's. So I wanted to ask, what are Pace's big 2025 goals?
2025. I've got this really fun new habit of taking all of my goals and then having a graphic designer draw them out in like a poster format. So instead of me just saying, here's our goals and putting it into a Slack channel or, sending it out to our team, I'm basically making it an infographic, right? You guys have seen infographics, like go to Pinterest and type in, the one that I kind of emulated was go to Pinterest, type in iceberg infographic, and you'll see, like the tip of the iceberg and then all the stuff you see underneath it.
Yeah.
And something that I've been working a lot more on is dumbing down everything that I'm doing, dumbing it all down. Like, okay, I can speak about high level topics to people that are at a 3rd grade level. Can I speak to people who are literally 3 years old and get them to understand what I'm doing? And so I'm spending a lot more of my time in 2025 going backwards to all the complex things that I've done. This is YouTube to Instagram, to my own team, my own companies, my own family, and really using pictures and graphics way more than I'm using words. And the reason being is that my team will now be visually reminded of all of our goals. So I've got 3 different businesses. One of those businesses is with Molly, and Molly and I have 7 different revenue streams that we work on. Yeah. And the team is constantly having trouble understanding the vision, right? They understand their role, but like, where's the company going? And I found, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go hire a graphic designer to like take everything that's in my brain and turn it into like a movie post. You remember when movies used to have posters? Well, so like, basically saying like, here's Pace's vision, or here's the vision of our company, but turning into like a funny graphic that everybody can visually buy into. And then one of the big things we're doing is our company is starting a newsletter that's only internal to our existing team members. So we hear everything that everybody's working on. Like everybody has their own little blurb in the newsletter. Like, here's the things I accomplished on my team. Here's the things that happened this week. Here's the good. Here's my challenges. If anybody has ideas how I can overcome this, and really just kind of syncing everybody together in the most simple way, right? Going to first principle thought processes, which means how can I make this way more simple for everybody? So that's cascading from my own companies, my own portfolio, my own, wealth management, all the way into the SubTo community, the Gator community, everything in our, well, I just call it the creative community. I'm going to simplify everything that people go, oh my gosh, Pace drew this out in what I'm calling corporate cartoons.
Okay.
And I literally have 4 full-time graphic designers now just working on every idea that I have, that I'm taking everything to production value of 11, but simplifying everything that is just like so digestible. So I'm obsessed with that right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jesse Stanton, who you're familiar with, my business coach, calls it army proofing. Kind of sounds like similar, just like make it as simplified so a monkey could kind of understand it, not to.
Yeah, I think the tendency for like a Nathaniel, or me, is that as visionaries, our tendency is to believe that people can handle our vision because we see things that we assume everybody else can see, right? Like, I'll give you a really good example. I go do a SubTo deal recently. We close it and I turn around and I sell it on a lease option. Well, my team mistracked some of the finances, and it wasn't that they didn't track it, it's that they didn't appropriately track it. And I got somewhat like, it wasn't frustrated in a negative way, but it was like, guys, why do you not see why this is so important? They're like, no, Pace, we get it. Tracking the money is important. I'm like, no, you don't get it. I have put together a compensation package that's beyond your salary, that you and everybody on the team will be able to participate in future profits of these individual deals. How do we know what the actual profit is unless we appropriately put these in place? So I'm thinking, okay, I buy the house for 400, I sell it for 500. There's $100,000 in equity that will be realized at some point in the next 5 to 7 years, right? Not to mention the cash flow and the tax benefits of the lease option, but I'm looking at the 100 grand and I can very easily see what that looks like for them as individuals on my team. And as I explain it and I'm excited and I'm this, that, and the other, and bro, it wasn't until I hired a graphic designer to draw out what that looked like that they go, oh, we get it. And I'm like, okay, so not more words, less words, more pictures, more visuals, right? So essentially, I'm trying to, what I see in my brain, I know, Nathaniel, you have a similar personality and similar brain. I can see the vision. I can see it. So sadly, I am taking my vision, which is vivid in 3D, 4D. I can see 5 years in the future as a business owner. I take that vision that is in my brain and I put it through my stupid mouth and I convey it through words. So then what's happening is that my team member is receiving my words, not my vision. And then their mouth is their ears are interpreting into their brain and painting a picture. And so the two pictures are completely wrong. They're off. And so I just realized just recently, it's so stupid, but I realized that I have to take the exact vision of what's in my brain and have somebody draw it out in picture format and very easily just put it in front of somebody. So this is conveying to everything in my life. I will probably say 1/3 the amount of words in 2025, but I will have 10 times the efficiency and the effect that I was looking for from in 2021 and 2022, et cetera.
Yeah, that's for me is really crazy. And I know you're saying like we're like-minded or think similarly. Is like the way you break things down so simply with a whiteboard, to me is like, how could it not be understood? But the way you explain it there with like, I have this clear vision in my head, and the words can't always put that vision into place. So I
Yeah,
love
we
that.
see we don't cast vision through words, right? Like when
Right.
Nathaniel, when you're dreaming and you're casting a vision, you're not thinking in words, you're thinking
Yeah.
in pictures, right? You're envisioning, like for me, when I remember 5, 6 years ago, I had this vision. I wanted to have a property in Montana. I knew what it looked like. I knew what the aspen trees looked like when the windstorm was coming through. I
Mm.
knew I wanted to have a barn and a green John Deere tractor that sat in the barn and didn't get used, because who gives a shit if it was? I just want a John Deere tractor in my barn. And I can see this so vividly that I know exactly how to run towards it, right? It's
Mm.
very simple once I see it. And so what's sad is that somebody who's so powerful with their words, I would say I'm probably a number 7 on a level of 10 of where I want to be in terms of articulating my thoughts.
Mm.
It's crazy to me that I can tell people like, hey, I have a house in Montana. I want to get a house in Montana. And when they think about that, they think about a little small 3-bed, 2-bath house, like up in the woods somewhere, made of log
Yeah, yeah,
wood homes, right?
yeah,
And it's just crazy how the way I have to transpire, or I have to transcribe what I'm thinking, does not convey. So it's the same thing with this. Like literally, when I say I'm conveying this across everything, and I'm cascading this across everything, think about how simple this can be. So, when I was on my mission in Korea, for my church, I went and knocked doors and sold Jesus for 2 years in a foreign language, right? Like knocked doors in Korean and sold Jesus. In 2 years, I was able to baptize 18 people into the church. Okay,
Mm.
cool. What was my biggest challenge? My biggest challenge, Nathaniel, was sitting there in somebody's living room, sitting, cross-legged on the floor, because Koreans don't sit in chairs. And I mean, some of them do now. They're getting a little bit more modernized. But 21 years ago, when I was in Korea, you'd sit on the floor,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'd sit there and explain a complex topic in a complex language that I had only been speaking for 6 months, 9 months, 21 months,
Yeah.
whatever I was at that moment. And where I saw the most success is when I finally gave up on transcribing my thoughts into words, hoping that those words transpired or transcribed into an image in their brain. So what I started doing is I'm not joking you, I went to a corner store in Korea, and Koreans are known for like amazing pens and paper and all sorts of cool little tchotchkes
Yeah.
and stuff. So I drew out everything I was trying to get this other Korean person to understand. And all of a sudden, my success rate skyrockets.
Mm.
And it was like all I was doing was being a caveman. Like it didn't matter if we don't speak the language. If I can draw an image for you to understand, we can get all the words out of the way. And that's duplicatable, because
Yeah.
now I can use that image 1,000 times. So now think about this, all the way down to the person that's going into living rooms, or you're talking to an agent. Let's say you have a PDF, right? Like you go to Fiverr, a really good place to go find these infographic designers. You go to Fiverr and you have a complex structure of how you present a SubTo deal, or how you present a seller finance deal. And instead of using the word SubTo or seller finance or title and escrow, you remove all those words and you literally draw out, here's what it looks like. Here's how the pieces move. Picture of the seller, picture of the house, picture of the this, blah, 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 blah. And you eliminate the need for them to translate what you're saying into their own comprehension, because a picture will do it. So I'm literally going to, have you ever seen the movie Idiocracy?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's where I'm going, bro. I'm
Yeah.
going to Idiocracy. I'm going
Mm.
to the point where it's like, here is the image. Don't tell me where your body hurts. Point to a picture on a map of like where your body hurts. Don't
Yeah.
tell me. Just say, I hurt here, and touch it.
Yeah.
And so that, I'm telling you, that simple switch in my life will take me probably 3, 4, 5 months to really create the imagery and create the assets. I'll give a lot of these assets to the SubTo community as well, so that they can utilize them across all their deals and whatever else. But yesterday I'm talking to an agent. Okay. I go down to my Tucson property, 160 unit deal we bought, seller finance. We have a bunch of people in that deal with me. And what ended up happening is I have an agent that meets me at the property. She's in Tucson. I'm in Phoenix. I said, hey, I'm going to be in Tucson. Let's meet at my property. I'd like to talk to you about you finding non-traditional buyers for me, right? Hispanics that maybe don't have credit or they only have cash and they're afraid they can't buy a house, whatever. And we're sitting down, not joking, wasted an hour articulating this to her. And I'm like, dude, I'm a pretty good communicator. I'm a pretty good communicator. I don't know why she doesn't understand this. And I just took out a pen and paper, drew it out, and all of a sudden she's like, I got it.
Yeah, bingo.
So I'm like, all right, saving myself time next year, I'm just going to draw out every complex and somewhat just medium level challenge that I have to communicate to people over and over and over. And I'm going to do it in PDF format that people can open it up on their phone, scroll through the cartoon and go, oh, I got it. This goes from goals in my family. Literally, I'm going to have a poster on my wall drawn by an actual graphic designer. This is the pathway our family is taking this year. These are our major milestones. This is what we're trying to accomplish. And then the imagery is constantly reminded to them on the way to their bedroom, on their way to work, on their way to. And so I'm going to do that with my company. I'm going to do that with my sellers, with my agents, my private money lenders. I'm going to do that with everybody in 2025.
Yeah. This is kind of reminding me a little bit, and I think it was one of the earlier projects in Project Forward was duplicating yourself on YouTube when you're getting commonly asked questions from people like, hey, what's your buy box? Well, I just made a 2-minute video of what my buy box is, so I don't have to answer that every time somebody, and I still find myself freaking answering it all the time, but instead of just sending people to the video. But
yeah, it's crazy. But like, here's the buy box thing that I found. This goes back to the imagery. So people don't want to watch a video.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because people just go, watch a video, 2-minute video. Okay, I'd say it helps 70% of the time. But there's always like the 30% of people like, can you just talk to me? So what I did in my buy box recently is I drew out my buy box on it. So it's like 4 images. Image number 1 is the United States, and then blue are the states I'm buying in.
Okay.
Red are the states, do not even waste my time. Just it's red, blue, red, done. Okay. Then they scroll down to the next image and it shows pictures of image types or asset types like single family, multifamily, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And that has eliminated every conversation around my buy box. I have not had to send a video or it's just like, okay, got it. I got it. Draw it to me in a cartoon and then I'll get it. And all of a sudden I'm getting more deals that are actually tied into my buy box than I was when I was telling people through the video. You know what I'm saying? So it's just tinkering and messing around and realizing that people's attention span is so short nowadays. And so I have literally 1 second. Their brain can look at an image. Their brain is not going to recraft the image I gave them. Their brain is going to memorize the exact image I gave them. And so there is no translation lost. It is literally, here's the image, memorize it, imprint it on your brain. And so I'm having a lot of fun with that, bro. Just seeing how way more effective it is than talking and having meetings. My average meeting has been cut by 30 minutes. So now instead of us talking about, hey, let's remind ourselves what the goals are, which takes 7 minutes, and then going through those individual things, I literally have now taken my average meeting from an hour down to 30 minutes. Oh my, bro, imagine that across 15 meetings a week. I saved myself 7 hours a week and they're more efficient. So it's freaking simple, but it's effective.
Yeah. And for all the wholesalers out there, be prepared because when Pace says something like this, people adopt it, and so you're going to start getting color-coded maps.
And the reality is, a lot of wholesalers sending you deals, bro. Like, they don't need to understand like complex things of like ARV or this, that, and the other, and blah 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 blah. Like, just draw it to them in a color-coded thing, and they'll figure it out. And if they can't figure that out, then they shouldn't be sending you anything anyway.
Yeah. They're not going to know what the ARV is to begin with. You mentioned you're a 7 out of 10 in your talking or in the way you communicate. And I know that you're kind of peeling away from this a little bit, but we do a lot of communicating as real estate investors, talking to wholesalers, talking to buyers, sellers, private money lenders and partners. Is there anything that you read, maybe listened to that kind of moved the needle from a 3 to a 7? Is there anything that you're doing that's going to get you to the 10?
So let's go back to let's say you want to be a great communicator. you're sitting there saying, man, I wish I could get my idea across of how I can help this seller today. I wish this agent would understand why they should work with me. And I wish this private money lender would trust me and believe in me, right? That level of, where I was at a 2 or a 3, trying to get to a 5 even.
Mm.
And I would say the number one thing, not what you're going to expect, but the number one thing is watching TV shows and movies as not a consumer, but as somebody who is studying story arc, character development, what human language shows, and all of that kind of stuff. Like a director of a movie will spend 30 days to get a 30-second clip of showing somebody's eyes squinting to do X, Y, and Z to show the emotion that they're going through. So I watched a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows, especially on flights, and I would take notes of how to communicate and how to get a complex idea over to the other side of the aisle, right? So that would be number one. Number two, and I'll get to like where I'm at and what I'm working on. Number two would be start a podcast. Bro, Nathaniel, how much better have you become at communicating since you've had to interview 70 plus people?
A lot. Yeah.
There you go. So when I tell people start a podcast, it's the cheat code, because now you get to create friends, you get a loyal group of people around you. They're like, damn, man, this guy's providing value. I see he's legit, right? All of those types of things. But more importantly, you get to practice what you preach, and then you're testing everything all the time. You're throwing spaghetti at the wall. Like, oh, that question didn't get my interviewee to give me a really great answer. That question wasn't really great. It wasn't open-ended enough. Sometimes you don't know that until you try it, and you're living proof of this, bro. 70 episodes, that's gangster. Like, that's insanely good. Okay, now you get to a point where the more words you say, the better you become. Okay, so that's from like a level 2 to a level 7, let's say. Okay, then you keep hitting a block in the road at a level 7 communicator. Right. I'd say from 5 to 7 is more about storytelling and saying, all right, let me get you into your brain. Let me convey these complex ideas to you through a story rather than just fancy words, and really getting people to emote, right? To feel something when you're communicating with them. That would be from like 5 to 7. Then 7 to like 8 is the Mark Twain quote, which was, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter.
Yeah, I love that.
Which is, holy crap, dude, like spend more time. And same thing with Abraham Lincoln. He says, if you gave me 4 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 3 hours sharpening my axe. What does that mean? That means, at least in this context, that means say shorter words that convey the idea stronger than more words. It's as simple as that. And so one of the things I'm working on is, how do I script things? Because I'm great free flowing. Nathaniel, you're going to get even better at free flowing and being able to have conversations about any topic because of your podcast and because of who you naturally are. And you just got to unlock these pieces of yourself through practice. But then there's going to come a point where now you really have to add elements of control, which is speak less, but say more.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Like,
and that's where I'm at right now, of like, how can I speak less but say more? How can I convey a stronger message but I use less words? And so that's really one of the things I've been working on. I joined a mastermind that's like $60,000 a year, all about communicating. And sadly, I ended up teaching most of the classes because I'm at a level 7, and most of the people in that class that are paying that 60 grand to be in that mastermind are probably at a level 5 or 6. So I've had to get around people like Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins, other people like that in the last 3 or 4 summers to really be around people that are at a level 9 or at a level 10. And then also researching and watching podcasts, not from a consumption standpoint, but saying, all right, who are my favorite podcasters and why? Write those things down. Okay, Tom Bilyeu, who came into the SubTo community 2 nights ago. Billionaire, runs Impact Theory, 5 million subscribers on YouTube, one of the greatest interviewers of our generation. And I start studying the questions he's asking rather than the context and the content of the thing he created. So why did he ask that? And where did it go? Was that a great question? What would I have asked instead? And so put this into practice, Nathaniel, this will change your life. Watch a podcast write down every question that your hero podcast interviewer actually asked, and then write to the side of it, what would have been a better question to get a better answer, and challenge yourself to try and come up with a better question than what your hero came up with.
Hmm.
And it really becomes a fun game, right? Now, if you really want to do it well, do it with a friend and go, all right, we're going to have lunch together today, or, hey, we're going to do an open office Zoom, and let's both watch Tom Bilyeu's interview with Michael Saylor that just came out 2 days ago about Bitcoin. Great. Let's watch the first 30 minutes, write down the questions, and let's see who, or you could even take the video, throw it into a YouTube transcriber, have ChatGPT pull out all the questions so you don't have to watch the thing, and then go, what would be better ways to ask these same exact questions? And then exchange and go, oh my gosh, bro, you asked this better than I could have ever asked, and turn it into a fun game rather than, people will go, let's go network. Well, one of the best ways to network is to make sure you upgrade each other. And so I would upgrade each other by doing that.
Yeah. That's like, we did a lot of it, or I did a lot of it when I first joined SubTo, is like you have a lot of your calls in the vaults, but there's a lot of other, talking to sellers, talking to agent calls that you go in and you break down. Hey, was that the right place to ask that question? Could he have done that differently? Should he have not even asked a question there and maybe done a callback? Like just all those things. So I love that. I never thought about doing it from that perspective before. Like, as you were talking about the watching movies, it was reminded of kind of an OG, we'll call it OG, Mamadou Diallo, where he learned freaking how to speak English from listening to music and watching movies and stuff. And now he's just a rock star real estate investor and has a team of his own. You have like 160 something employees at this point.
Yeah, I own a company that has 300 employees in it.
Okay.
And if you don't count that company, then I'm about 200 employees. So collectively I have 500, but one of the companies, I'm in the process of selling that company right now. So I will go from 500 down to close to 200 employees. And that's, between the perfectclean.com, that's the plant guy, that's Manifest You, that's creative title and escrow, that's my lending business, that's my portfolio business, that's all of those companies. It's just not one company, it's multiple companies.
Right. Yeah. But if you were to go back to the beginning and you're just getting started as a real estate investor, you started getting some traction maybe, and you're ready to make that first hire, what would you recommend somebody, where would you recommend starting your hiring process with?
Okay, great question. So I do this this is perfect and timely for your last episode of the year. I do this every year, and I'm doing it actually ironically today.
Okay.
What I do is, and I would do this with yourselves. Okay. Just, hi, Shanice, good to see you. Okay. So do this with yourself in the beginning. And this is really challenging for people that are in the beginning because they're shit at their calendar, like absolute dog shit at their calendar. They don't, like when people say, I don't have time, I need better time management. They're right. Like even me, who's very efficient with my time, I literally, the more I learned about time management, I used to think I'm a 7. The more I learned about time management and the more I improve my time management, I realize I'm currently a 2 or 3 out of a 10. Like,
oh no. Okay.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go. This is such a great topic. This is something I'm obsessed with because I want to have the most impact. I want to help the most people. I want to, be the best father and spend an average of 5 to 6 hours a day with my wife and my kids. And I still want to become a billionaire. So how do I do all of those things? Well, I have to have really good time management. Okay, what does that look like? When you're brand new, you're going to be so shit at your calendar that this is going to be challenging. So your step is going to be one step before what I'm going to tell you, which I will tell you in a second.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, if you're new, what it should look like in a second, but I'll tell you what I currently do now. So once a year, me and my team, we go through my calendar and we look at 100 activities I did over the last year. Okay. And you can't have duplicates. It has to be Pace did this one thing one time. And if he did it a second time, it can't go on the list as number 2. Okay. That goes down to waiting in line at the airport. That goes into Pace had an overnight flight. That goes into Pace was on a Zoom meeting about a potential business opportunity that ended up not going anywhere. Pace went to the gym. Pace drove to the gym. Pace drove his kid to school. Like literally all of the activities that I do, I write them down. Okay. It's gotten a lot easier with AI now. It can like do all of this kind of for you. It can go back and research my calendar and find all the activities that I'm doing, both obvious and not obvious activities I'm doing. So ChatGPT will go through and be like, oh yeah, you're obviously traveling from here to here. That looks like a 15-minute, like literally all of those things.
Wow.
And then my team and I list out those 100 things. And the team's goal every year is to eliminate 50 of those things off my plate. Well, the 50 I keep, all right, the 50 I keep are my non-negotiables and where I make the most money and the most impact. Good example. If I'm in a meeting, for example, somebody wants to pitch me a new software they want me to promote. This happens every day. Like quite literally, I get an email or two every day. Pace, I have this new software. Will you promote this thing? Great. I used to take those meetings. And my team found by doing the research that I would have 10 meetings, and very rarely did we ever have a second meeting with any of those 10. So then I thought, okay, well, that's not worth my time. But also every 50 meetings I have, we get one business that we get to collaborate with, and that is worth it. But it's not worth my time to do that. And so I then look at who on my team can be the filter. So when somebody hits me up on DMs or email or whatever and says, hey, I've got a company I want you to promote, I'll give you X, Y, and Z. I go, absolutely reach out to Sarabi. Sarabi will have a 20-minute call with you. It's not an hour, 20-minute call. Be prepared for the call. And if she thinks that there's utility in us collaborating, then she'll set up a meeting with me. Here's what happened. This literally, I'm not joking you, has saved me from 150 meetings in 2023 that I had down to 3 meetings I had this year regarding that. Think about that. An average of 2.5 to 3 meetings a week, people pitching me new ideas, has now gone to 2.5 to 3 meetings all year long, because I recognize that what's the equation? I put all this time in this situation and very few things are popping out. Dude, that's better for somebody else. And so this kind of gives you insight on who on my team do I need next? What are the things I need to remove? Okay, that's one idea. Another thing is, when I take my daughter to school, it makes me no money. Well, guess what? That's a non-negotiable for me.
Right.
It doesn't matter. There's just 20 hours of my week that are non-negotiable. Do not bother me. These are my holy magic collecting moments. I collect my magic during these moments. Do not rob me of these. They're in red on my calendar. If you touch them, you're fired. Do not book anything on them. Do not ask me. Do not ask me. Do not say, Pace, it's really important. This meeting, this thing has to happen. Okay. So my team just knows my non-negotiables from day one. And I then, Nathaniel, not only am I training myself, but I'm training all of the people that want my time, including there's 2 paces in the world, right? There's the money-making pace and the family pace, okay? So sometimes the money-making pace really wants to take time from family pace, and family pace has put on the calendar, there is no way you are getting into Fort Knox. These non-negotiables are in red. Do not even bother me or I will beat you up. So it's even for me, right? And okay, then beyond the non-negotiables, there are the negotiables. Here's a negotiable. Wholesale hotline. Do I have to be on wholesale hotline every week? No. Jerry, Jamil, and Brent are also on that show. So let's say Tom Bilyeu, who is a new relationship of mine, says, I really want to come into the SubTo community and provide value to get you guys for an hour, which was insane the other night. If you guys have not seen that, it was so freaking good. Go in there. It's in the SubTo vault. So Tom Bilyeu says, he's a billionaire, sold the company for $1 billion. I'm asking him for an hour of his time. What's that time worth? It's worth a couple $100,000 minimum is what his time is worth. So when he says, I only have Monday nights at 5 p.m., which is also the time for wholesale hotline, it's a pretty easy negotiable, right? Like those are the things that I negotiate. And I tell my co-hosts on the show, hey guys, I'm interviewing Tom Bilyeu. This is why I won't be around, to give them a logical explanation. And then I don't need to show up, right? So if Tom Bilyeu says, I can only do it during 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, I would say, then we are never doing a Zoom together, because that's when I drop my daughter off for school, and you can lick my entire ass. There's no way I'm going to rob myself. Okay, cool. So think about this in terms of your life. Where are you making money intentionally? That's another thing we put on my calendar. We go, what are the things, okay, let's say I have 25 non-negotiables and 25 money-making activities that I cannot pass on to other people. What's a money-making activity that I can't pass on to other people? Raising big money with family offices is probably something I can't pass on to anybody currently, because I'm not even good enough at it to understand what I even need to hire. Okay. If I knew, then I would just hire that person today, but I don't quite understand it well enough. And so I'm in learning mode too. So what we do is we expand those things that I am uniquely good at, and then we remove the things that somebody else can do. Cool. So in the very beginning, let's go back to the question that you originally asked, Nathaniel, which is, what should be the first hire? Well, look at your calendar and really do a time audit. Where am I making money? By the way, if somebody says, Pace, I'm not making money, I can say, show me your calendar and I'll show you how much money you'll make this week. Truly. Like, I don't know if can I screen share?
Ooh, I don't know. Try.
I want to show you like one thing on my calendar that kind of shows you how intentional I am during my calendar breakouts. Okay. Let's go to, no, not that. Okay, here we go. Boom. So a couple of days ago, somebody asked me this question, like, how intentional are your time blocks? Check it out.
Are you sharing right now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Here we go. I'm sharing right now. So if you look here on, what is this? November 25th.
I don't see anything. Oh, sorry, okay. I don't want to cut. Yeah, I don't. Oh, wait.
Yeah, put it up there. Here you go. Yep. Cool. So this is from a couple of weeks ago. Okay. November 25th. And Jade and Ingrid and I have a meeting, and I write out, like, what are the 5 birds with the 1 stone? The meeting is the stone. What are the 5 birds we're killing? We'll plan out the next 3 weeks, plan out the next 3 months, create targets for the team, ask questions of what does success look like? What does failure look like? I write all of these things down. So every single part of my life, okay, every single part of my life is so intentional. The meeting, I'm not going into like, hey guys, we need to have a meeting syncing up. No, we don't. You need to tell me exactly what the goals of the meeting are before you even put it on my calendar, because you are taking my time from something else.
Yeah.
And so the team, here's what happens over time. The team gets very aware of Pace's value and Pace's time, and also knows where Pace should spend his time and where Pace should not spend his time, right? Okay. Now, when I'm brand new, it depends on who you are, but and what you're doing, but it all goes down to your calendar. And you go, okay, what are the things that I'm doing right now that are making me money? Start there. What's actually making me money? Not what I think is making me money. What is actually making me money? Well, if you're brand new to wholesale or fixing and flipping or buying and holding, if the answer is I'm not making a lot of money, well, then you're not doing any money making activities. It's so simple. It's so simple that when people come to me and they go, Pace, I've been trying to get a deal for 3 years and I haven't done a deal. I go, bullshit. You have not tried at all. Show me your calendar. Yeah. I already know 100% of the time their calendar does not exist, or it has like 2 things on it that are planned on a weekly basis, and everything else is they are susceptible to the universe from stealing their time. The universe comes in. You know how it is, Nathaniel. If you don't have your day planned, the world will take your day from you.
Yeah.
It's like this interesting thing. When I was in college, I was working for Pizza Hut. I'd work in the day. I'd go to college at night, but then on the weekends I would drive pizza to like get some extra cash. And one time I was delivering pizza and I got to $500 in cash, like within 3 weeks of delivering pizza. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to save this $500. And because I didn't tell the universe what I was going to do with the $500, I literally, the second I get the $500 in this little shoebox, this is back in 2000 and this is like 2004. So it's a while ago. So I put the money in the shoebox, put it up in my closet, and I'm like, cool, I'm going to go get another $500. But because I didn't have an intention behind that $500, I get a call from my wife, and she says, "Hey, our drains are clogged. We need to call Roto-Rooter." Well, how much did Roto-Rooter cost?
465.
$500. Right? Like, welcome to your calendar, because this is the same thing. If you do not tell your calendar and you do not tell the universe what your intentions are on your week, then the universe will invite bullshit into your week. And all of a sudden you're like, I don't know why I'm so busy. I just am. It's because you are letting the universe tell you what to do rather than you tell the universe, this is what I'm doing, bitch. Listen to me. I'm not doing anything else. And so when people are new and they're struggling, that is their number one problem, is they don't know what the money making activities are that they make money on. And then once you start there, okay, so for example, I'll give you a really good example. Hopefully this is applicable for a lot of people. Let's say, like, you look at the No One Left Behind challenge for November. We got, December. So we got 2 contracts for the week, a SubTo deal and a seller finance deal on my team. There's other teams that got way more deals than we did, but we got 2. Well, how many LOIs did that require? Well, it required 2,500 LOIs. Okay, divide that into the 5 days of the week. Okay, that's 500 LOIs per day. Okay, so I send out 500 LOIs. How many phone calls did it take? Well, it took 40 phone calls to get 2 contracts. Okay, well, how many appointments had to be set to get those 40 calls? Okay, so you delineate. You go 2,500 LOIs down to 380 calls to agents out of those, down to 40 appointments, down to 2 contracts, down to 20 grand. We're going to make 20 grand on those 2 contracts. So that means that if I want to make 20 grand this week, I need to figure out how to send out 2,500 LOIs, have 380 outreach calls. Doesn't mean every agent's going to answer, but it's 300 outreach calls, and then 40 actual conversations. That's simple. 5 conversations a day, times 5-6 days. Pretty simple. Okay. And people go, well, that's a lot of work. No, it's not. The amount of work it takes is about an hour and a half a day. You're just not time blocking it and then actually doing it. Best case scenario, you're time blocking it and then letting something else come up and deviate you from your plan. And you're like, I'll do it tomorrow. It's like a really good carnivore diet. I'm going to do carnivore diet for 30 days. And then you find yourself on day 4, you've already forgotten that you were even on a diet. Not only did you quit, you forgot that you did the diet. Yeah. Like that's how fast it is to derail your shit. So for me, if I could go back and give somebody a cheat code, it is your calendar tells the universe what your intention of the week is. And if you showed me a screenshot of your calendar this week, I could show you exactly how much money you're going to make. Exactly. Like, what are the money making activities? What does that turn into? What are the time blocking? And what are the anyway, so if you're brand new, you got to start there. I want to make 20 grand a month. Perfect. What does that take? Well, that takes 2,500 LOIs. It takes 380 calls, takes this, that, and the other. And it probably takes you to work with somebody else on a team so that you can collaborate and have some people that hold you accountable. So in the very beginning, once you know your money-making activities, then you audit the rest of your time. And you'll realize how much time you're wasting on other miscellaneous things. And whatever those miscellaneous things are that are not making you money that somebody else can do, that becomes your first hire. So even though that's very oddly specific, it's also oddly ambiguous at the same time. That is the recipe. Start with your money-making activities. Where do I make my money? Look at your calendar and go, if, like Nathaniel and everybody else on here, if right now you looked at your calendar, look at your calendar. Everybody in here, Curtis, Amene, Shernice, Nathaniel, Lance Riggin, good to see you, brother. Jennifer Breitbach, okay. Bridget, good to see you. Everybody right now, if you looked at your calendar this week, tell me how much money you're going to generate this week right now in the side chat. That is how reliable and predictable a good time management system is that I can say, oh, I'm going to make 400 grand this month. It sounds bonkers to me if I said it to myself 7, 8, 9 years ago that I could go, yeah, I'm going to make 400 grand this week. What the fudge? How is that possible? Well, I started with myself. I found out where I was making money. Then I audit the times I'm not making money and why I'm spending so much time on these things. And I go, I just need to expand my money-making activities, okay? And I need to push those other activities off my plate to expand. Okay, what I've now done, Nathaniel, is I limit my money-making activities to only an hour and a half per money-making activity, 5 days a week. So for example, if I have 4 businesses I'm focusing on right now, well, each one of those 4 businesses gets an hour and a half from me every day that's doing the money-making activity. Okay, so that adds up to what? 6 hours, right? That's 6 hours. 4 companies get me dedicated for an hour and a half a day on money-making activities. That's how I can make $400,000 in a week. My lending business, my lease option business, my fix and flip business, all of those things get my love, my attention. And because I'm a money generator, when I put an hour and a half into any one of my businesses per day and I do it consistently for 30 days, it gets out of control. It gets so out of control. Yeah. Look, Ralph says I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm looking at closing the last 2 weeks and making $150,000. There you go. Now, Lance, friend of mine. So I know Lance very well. Love him. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of people in here.
Yeah.
What I would say to Lance is like, Lance, what I would do is do the time auditing. And if you're going to make 150 grand in a couple of weeks, congratulations, you deserve it. But your life, just knowing you, I imagine your life is somewhat chaotic where you're like, I feel like I'm being torn 7 different ways and nothing's ever getting zipped up. And there's always something chasing me. And while I'm in the middle of making money on this activity, this other activity is haunting my thoughts because this thing didn't get zipped up and blah, 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 blah. I imagine that to be true. So give me a yes if that is true, Lance. The way you get free of that is through time management and spending a lot more time on your calendar, being super, super intentional.
Yeah. Well, and I know Lance just, I don't know how recently now, it's probably within the last couple of months, just hired an executive assistant. So hopefully that's going to get some of that ironed out. You know, I was talking with my school. We just started a school community, Zach Bush and I, for fathers to take control of their health and wellness. Busy fathers where we're complaining like we don't have the time to put into our fitness. We don't have the time to eat correctly. And it's like, do a time audit. We literally just talked about the time audit last night, and I haven't thought about doing it from a year perspective. We talked about doing it from like a week perspective. You can get a fairly clear picture in a week of what you're spending time on. But looking back over the course of a year, man, I look all the times that I wasted, because even throughout a year, you have different little seasons and ebbs and flows to what's going on. So I love that. You answered some questions that I had kind of set aside, so to speak, when I asked you what your 2025 goals are. You answered the question of how are you managing your time. That's where I wanted to kind of go. Did I not say fit fatherhood? Oh, sorry, Brittany put in the comments there. How you're managing being a dedicated husband and father. You said 20 hours a week, 6 hours a day. Wait, that doesn't add up. But
no, I'm 6 hours a day. I'm 6 hours a day, and 20 of those during the week are non-negotiable hours.
Gotcha.
Right? So
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, so like after, give you a good example. So last night, my wife goes to an ornament party with like Dean Graziosi's wife and some other high-level women. And so my wife is doing her duty to, expand our kingdom by hanging out with other kingdom builders' spouses and queens, right?
Mm.
So I watched the kids from 7 o'clock until 11:30 until she got home. So like, that's not on my calendar, right? I don't need to time block time after 7 o'clock.
Right.
That's all just family dedicated time. So I'm getting an average of like 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night, 2 hours a night, every night with my kids. That does not show up on my calendar. But the stuff that does show up on my calendar is 20 hours. So like, for example, right after this podcast, my son is turning 1 year old tomorrow. And so we hired a videographer to come and spend an hour with him in the middle of the day, just watching him do things and making a cool little video about him. And I will pull out half of, a couple of, maybe an hour and a half in the middle of the day. That's a non-negotiable in the middle of my money making. So my money making is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's my money making. So if you're going to put it on my calendar during 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., it better be so freaking valuable. And so what happens is, like, if people want my time or my attention, you got to fight for it. You got to fight for it, because I now know where I touch something, there's a larger impact versus, I'll give you a good example. Really, really good example. If somebody on my DMs oh, this is actually really great. Check this out. Somebody sends me an email. I'll show you this email because this is the kind of stuff I get. Okay. Sometimes it's helpful to see just visual stuff. So check it out. So this person,
I know how to do that now.
Yeah, there you go. So Clay McDowell says, I just watched one of your recent blah, blah, blah. I'm having trouble thinking that the example in the video is realistic. Okay. Like what's crazy to me is like, I gave the address away. The proof is on the thing. Why would the seller do this? Hey, I saw that where you said to email you to another subscriber. So I thought I'd take you up on the invite. Thanks for the reply ahead of time. Okay. So here's something that in my previous version of my life, I would have gotten on multiple Zooms in 2000 and probably 16, 17, 18, 19, before I realized I was wasting my time giving my value to one person, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if that one person is a leader, then gosh damn it, I'm going to give that person an hour of my time. And the reason being is because I give that person an hour, they go and give that hour to 100 people in the community, and there's a massive impact. And that person will never be the same person ever again, right? I give them status. They give themselves status. They give themselves permission to lead at a higher level. Lance Riggin is a good example of this. I've spent a lot of time with him. I postured him up, right? Same thing with Jesse, is that Jesse has been postured up, and I've given him status. I've put him on my pedestal, and I've done these things because I see him as a future leader. I'm more than warranted in spending an hour privately with these people because I know these people will take it and run with it at a high level and impact a big amount of people. But if I go and help this Clay McDowell guy and I go do a 1 hour Zoom with him and I'm trying to explain to him, you're wrong about this, and here's the story, and here's the story, and here's the story. This is what I did in 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Thousands of hours, quite literally, were wasted on people. Well, it's like, Pace, you're helping people. Dude, my job is not to help one person. My job is to be so efficient with my time that I help thousands of people.
Yeah.
And I actually have a responsibility that if my voice is going to hurt every day, like think about this. I have to spray glycerin into my mouth almost every day because of how much I talk. And so as I spray glycerin, I remind myself my voice box is valuable, and I'm damaging it in order to communicate with somebody else. So if I'm doing that, this guy does not deserve an hour of my time. Doesn't even deserve an email from me. Okay, cool. How can I do that better? Here's how I would do that better. I would email him, and I would invite him to a private Zoom. And what I would do is I would invite another 2,000 people to that private Zoom, and I would answer that question to him, but then also answer it to 2,000 people. Or better yet, I would say, hey, come on to the Get Creative podcast. I got 1,000 live viewers every single Sunday night. So why don't you come over there? You'll be my guest for the night, and I'll answer any question you have, but I'm not going to do it in a one-on-one format. And I'm definitely not going to take the time to write an email to you because I've just cast my pearls before swine. Right now, that doesn't mean this guy's a swine. It's just a biblical reference of like, don't waste your valuable goods on somebody that's not going to do anything with them. Yeah. Right. And what will be now. So it's just the efficiency. How can I be efficient? If I'm going to steal time from my wife, steal time from my kids, steal time from my personal life, what the hell do I do for downtime? I don't have downtime. Yeah. One, it's just I've learned my personality. I don't want downtime. But if I did want an hour a week, where could I take it from? Well, I could take it from not helping one dude off some random email I get. The best thing to do is go, okay, how can this question turn into helping somebody? And if 999 people don't take any action from it, but one person does, then it becomes worth my time. But how do I find that one person in 1,000 is actually broadcasting it to a larger audience? So this guy definitely deserves somebody's time, but he definitely doesn't deserve my time. I don't know him. He hasn't done anything for me, for my family. He hasn't done anything for my community. And so and chances are 99.9% chance he won't do shit with what I tell him. Yeah. So that's the thing is like, I had a bleeding heart for all these years that I would just help and help and help and help and help and help and help. And then I look at the results, kind of like a time audit. And I go, dude, I literally drove 100 people around, showed them what this business looks like in person, and 99% of them went and became Walmart greeters. Like, oh my gosh, I'm wasting my time. And so one of the reasons why I don't do ride-alongs anymore is because it's not efficient. I can help somebody, but I can help one person out of 100 is kind of the average. Like for you as somebody who has a brand, you'll learn that every 100 people you talk to in a world that they haven't financially committed to themselves, like joining a community, you'll find that quality of person is a coupon clipper and all about me, and I can do it on my own. That's the demographic they are. And 99% of them don't do shit with what they hear from you.
Yeah.
But once you then get them to financially commit and they become part of your ecosphere, they now have personally committed to themselves and signaled and thrown up a flag saying, I'm here, I'm committed, I'm doing the thing. Those people, that's like 80% of people do something with it, and the other 20% of people don't. And so now that's my, going back to the beginning of the podcast, everything I'm trying to do inside of SubTo and Gator and Top Tier TC and my own YouTube channel is that 20% of people in our community that have not done a deal yet, 81% success rate in SubTo, which is insane.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
81%. The average success rate for like a mentorship is 6%. So think about that. Like we're at 81%. It's insane to think about. And I'm still obsessed about that 19 or 20%. How do I do that? Well, that goes back to the cartoons, corporate cartoons, right? So anyway, my point is time management and knowing if I'm going to do something for somebody, it needs to be doing something for everybody. You've done a great job of this by creating a podcast, and you need to continue to think about my value needs to cascade to hundreds of people, not one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kathy's plugging my helping hands hour. Speaking of time, we got 3 minutes left before you're going to go be with your 1-year-old. I got to get the question in. It's a question I've asked darn near everybody on Networking with Nathaniel. When your time is done, Pace, on this earth, I think we've heard this answer before, but what do you want to be remembered for with the people that you've left behind and the people that you've impacted?
I want to be remembered in a similar way that Big Boy from Outkast is currently remembered in like the Atlanta hip hop scene. He's known as the guy who had all the talent, had all the skill, but he spent most of his time building up other brands and helping other people. So good example, Future. If you don't know who Future is, you must be an old white guy. But Future is one of the most famous rappers on the planet and has been for probably 10 years. Future slept on Big Boy's couch when Big Boy was at the height of his fame. He wasn't living in some lavish world. He was like, all right, guys, we're all in it forever together. Ludacris, okay? T.I., all these rappers that came out of Atlanta, Big Boy was the guy that cultivated these guys. Now, a lot of people won't know this band, but the name of the band is Run the Jewels. It's a freaking massive rap group. Yeah. It's a nerdy white guy and a big heavyset black guy.
Yeah.
Same thing there is that those guys were propped up by Big Boy. And Big Boy has made so many people famous, but nobody knows that nobody knows it until those rap artists like Ludacris will go, if it wasn't for Big Boy letting me sleep on his couch and showing me the way, I wouldn't be here. Like straight up, I wouldn't have figured this out a different way. I would have never figured this out. And so I want to be known as basically the Big Boy of real estate, which is I want to see people go and surpass me, but I want to give people keys to the kingdom to take my 10-year learning curve down to 3 years or 2 years for people. And I think I'm doing, just to be cocky, nobody's remotely close to me in this regard. And I know that you just got to be so succinct on your vision and your mission. I know I'm accomplishing the mission, and I know that I'm only 5% of the way there, but I'm 5% ahead of anybody else in this regard. Everybody else is like, how do I become the biggest influencer in real estate? I'm like, how do I create the most influencers in real estate?
Yeah. Well, I love you, man. I appreciate you. We got to get a pat on the back end because you're correct. Thousands and thousands of people you've brought up.
Dude, 70 episodes. I know I talked most of the podcast, but obviously that's what happens when you're the guest.
Yeah.
But dude, 70 episodes you got to stop and really think about how literally 99% of podcasts will never get past 21 episodes, and here you are at 70. Dude, your communication, your confidence, who you are is like starting to shine. You haven't necessarily changed because you've always been a badass. It's just that you're shedding the layers of disbelief, and you're shedding the layers of like other things people put on you, of like, here's who you are, and you're walking into the actual true version of yourself. So kudos, dude. It's freaking fun to watch. Super proud of you, man.
I appreciate you, brother. It's all. I mean, it's not all of you, but
Of course not. Of course
yeah,
not.
you're pushing the I don't know. You're pushing me. Yeah, but yeah. I appreciate you, brother. I will
Thank
let
you.
you go. Oh
Hey,
man,
everybody in the side
Phil.
chat.
Yeah.
I love so many of you guys. Like Rex Shippey, good to see you, brother. Ralph, Lance Reagan, Bridget, oh my gosh, Christine, everybody. Kathy, love Kathy. Her and I get a text. Actually, she sent me one of the more emotional text messages of the year. Love you, appreciate you guys so much. Jesse's a badass, dude. Like, proud of you, dude. Proud of everything you're doing. Proud of you, Nathaniel. Keep doing it, dude. You guys are barely starting.
Yeah.
Barely starting. And thank you. Have me back when you guys get to like episode 200.
Okay, next Christmas maybe. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate
Appreciate
you.
you.
Later, face. Well, that was amazing, as I figured would happen. Pace just poured value on top of value on top of value. I'm glad that I started with the question that I asked, because he just went and took it beyond where I could have imagined. Time blocking is the essence. I talked about it in Fit Fatherhood last night with my coaching group, going and doing a time audit, doing it on the scale that Pace is doing it and talked about, where you're looking back across your entire year and all the little things that you're doing and separating the noise from the stuff that's actually making you money, and then you're able to go out and delegate those things to your first hire or your next hire. That's how Pace gets to where he's at. That's how he's got hundreds of employees. That's how he's able to dedicate multiple hours a day to his family. I don't know if you noticed when he was talking about family Pace, saying forget you to all the other stuff, I started to get teary-eyed, because like, man, if Pace is able to do that, then why can't I do it? And it's because he does that he's able to do everything else at such a high level, is because he only has an hour and a half a day to dedicate to each business. So he's got to make sure that it's the most impactful hour and a half that he can. So I appreciate y'all. As Kathy mentioned, tomorrow, Thursdays, we do Helping Hands Hour, noon Eastern time. If you haven't already and you're interested in joining that Zoom, reach out to me on Facebook, on Instagram. You can go to nathanielhovsepian.com to find the link to that to register. I want to connect with as many people as I can. Like Pace said, bring many people in and be able to pour into many instead of one-on-one. That's what Jesse had pushed me to do, earlier this year, and I like doing it. And Kathy, I appreciate you for shouting it out. I appreciate you all for being here. We will not be here next week. We will not be here the week after that. Have a Merry Christmas. Have a Happy New Year's, and we will see you in 2025. We have a lot of cool guests coming up.